Welcome to today's Daily Thought. This is a new week, but last week we didn't quite finish our theme of looking at the Lord's Prayer, and so we're going to continue reflecting on the Lord's Prayer this week. We saw last week that the Lord's Prayer falls into these two sections. Section 1 is all concerned and centred on the glory of God, the hallowing of his name, the coming of his kingdom, the doing of his will. And only then does section 2 move on to thinking about ourselves and our own individual requests. So we're not quite finished section 1 because last week we thought of the God that we pray to. He is our Father in heaven. We thought of what it meant to hallow his name, what it might mean for his kingdom to come on this earth. And today we're thinking of the third petition regarding God, and that is, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that request again just underlines the selflessness that ought to mark our praying, that first and foremost our praying is about God, focused on him and what will bring glory to him, before we move on to think about our own requests and having our own interests satisfied. The believer longs to see God's will being accomplished. And often that may well conflict with our own comfort and with our own gratification. And the clearest example that we have of that is listening in to Jesus' own prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, just shortly before he was arrested and led off to be crucified. We read that in the garden Jesus fell with his face to the ground and he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." And Jesus in the garden is confronted by the full horror of the cross, and he understandably prays that if there is any other way to bring about the salvation and the reconciliation of this world, that God would do it. But then he says, "But not as I will, but as you will." The will of God is paramount for Jesus. And Jesus learns that there is no plan B, that the salvation of the world has to come by way of the cross. And so he willingly submits to that, because he is fully committed to the Father's will. And what this Gethsemane prayer also shows us is that when we're talking here of God's will for this world, we're referring to something so much bigger than just individual requests for guidance for our own lives. God's will is nothing less than the plan of redemption and restoration of this whole universe through the sacrificial work of Jesus on the cross. This is what we want to see being brought to bear, being fully realized on this earth. To see this earth being brought into perfect conformity with the adoration and the praise that fills heaven. And God, it seems, invites us, his people, to be partners in accomplishing his purposes, using the prayers of his people to play a role in his sovereign plans. What a privilege that is. What a mystery that is. But what a privilege. And what a lot of work, what a lot of praying still to do. Have a look around you. Look at our world. Look at our society. Look at the ways and all the areas where you see God's will being defied, being ignored, being rejected. And how we need to do what Jesus encourages us to do, and to pray, "Our Father in heaven, may your will be done on this earth as it is in heaven." The Lord bless you as you pray that prayer.